Good afternoon, Sarah here, aka the Business Fixer, and Kat from CKG Consultancy. Apologies first of all that I am a smidge later than 12 o'clock, which was when I normally go live. That is because I am currently in Withensea up in Yorkshire enjoying the beach. So we had a nice stroll with the dog. The dog had a great time, so apologies for that. So we're going to slightly switch up what originally we were going to be talking about. We are touching on the terms and conditions, but in a slightly different way than we had anticipated. So what I wanted to talk to you today, and with Kat's interaction, we're going to talk about some of the things that Kat and I have been working on since we started working together. And I'm hoping that you'll really find some helpful insights. So let's kind of go back to the very beginning. So perhaps, Kat, if you can just share a little bit in terms of when you and I first started working together, a bit about where your business was at and where some of your challenges were.
So when we first started working together, the business was not in a good place. I was not in a good place. Things were sort of, I was really unsure about the basics, to be honest. And one of the very first things that I needed Sarah's help with was with my terms and conditions. So we sat together and I explained to Sarah what my concerns were about my terms and conditions. And we actually reviewed those together, and Sarah suggested some really helpful adjustments based on the standard template that she is so generously giving away. So it's been worth its weight in gold in terms of how it's worked for some of the clients that I've been working with. And we've had some great results, and it's just given me as a business owner the peace of mind that I really need my contracts to give me, and I've not had that in the past. So yes, it's been a game changer.
So in terms of this terms and conditions template, so as Kat has alluded to there, it's the free template, which is literally downloadable. So if you want a copy of this terms and conditions template, it's for service-based businesses. It is drafted by me. As you all guys hopefully know by now, I am a former litigation solicitor. So what has been drafted is based on what a solicitor would draft if you go and pay. So it's worth over £1,000, and I'm giving it away literally for free. Now, sometimes there are deviations away where you need to have it tweaked to be specific to your circumstances. If that is the case, then you do need to go and get a solicitor to draft it. But the one thing that I say, it is better to have some terms and conditions than none, but you need to make sure that they are also of the right quality level, because there are terms and conditions you can download off the internet, but you've got to be so careful because some aren't, for example, based in the England and Wales jurisdiction. They could be American terms, and whilst some law is very similar across different countries, you want to make sure that it is specific for England and Wales. So this has literally been drafted by me. It's the template in which, subject to obviously some tweaks for my specific business, I use in my own business. Kat uses it in hers. And what she was alluding to is we had a situation recently where, she had a situation with one of her clients where she had to rely on those terms and conditions. And by relying on those terms and conditions, she avoided it getting into a contract dispute and leading to court proceedings. We managed to negotiate a settlement to just bring it all to a nice, smooth conclusion.
Amicable.
Precisely, exactly. And it was because we had it crystal clear in the terms and conditions that we could then refer back to, that we knew that we had a strong position, and that if it had got into the court arena, Kat was in she was in a strong position to be able to fight in a corner. But because of those terms and conditions, they knew that they were going to be on a sticky wicket, and we managed to get it all resolved amicably within a very quick period of time. And this is just some of the benefits that I talk about in terms of having terms and conditions. Is, you know, both parties know exactly where they stand. You know, that effectively it can avoid costly litigation. You're limiting your liability. It's only up to the maximum contract value. Do bear in mind there are certain things you can't limit liability on, such as personal injury and death. But in likelihood, in most of the types of things that you guys are doing, that's not really going to be applicable anyway. So the terms and conditions template that I'm giving away for free, you know, it is drafted properly. It's got the key terms. You've also got a schedule that's attached to it. So if you're doing a specific job for a particular client, you can set out what that specific job is in the schedule, and the terms and conditions don't need to change. So, you know, make sure if you want to be able to get a copy of that template, all you just need to do is put in the comments the word terms, and I will send you over the link so you can download it. Now, let's go back to some of the other things that Kat and I have been working on. So, you know, as Kat alluded to earlier, she said about the foundational pieces. So we worked on terms and conditions. Kat, how about you share some of the other things that we have worked on?
There's been a lot of things that we've worked on. So when Sarah and I started working together, I was at the point where I was realizing that my, you know, ideal client, which is a foundational piece, wasn't quite right. So that was one of the very first things that we looked at, just getting the detail together about exactly who is that I not only want to work with, but actually the most profitable businesses that I've worked with in the past and that I want to work with in the future, and really nailing down the psychometrics as well as the normal demographics and standard things that people, you know, age and gender is all very well, but the psychographics are really important. Knowing what those people's pain point, you know, knowing what your ideal client's pain points are, where it is that they most would value from me as, you know, as a service. So that's one of the things. The other thing was a really big thing for me was actually telling my story and putting it across in a workable email nurture sequence that would be engaging and not be, you know, too boring, too long, too annoying. It's really tricky to get that kind of a story out of oneself on one's own. So Sarah has been amazing at really interpreting my story for me, and actually being able to craft it into something a lot more engaging than what I would have been able to do on my own. Gosh, there's been so many other things. We've done my framework of my for you know, what it is, how it is that I work with my clients. We've kind of crafted that now into really, I mean, the bones were there, but we've really crafted that to a really succinct and quite impactful framework and methodology that is not full of jargon that I only understand, that is actually important for my clients to understand what it is that I'm telling them that I'm going to take them through. So that's been, you know, a massive part of the fundamentals. Offers as well. I think when we first started speaking, I had 7 offers or something ridiculous. And we've got that down now to 2 core offers that, you know, that I'm pushing at once, which really simplifies the way that I sell. Sales process brings me on. Sales process, let's not, you know, forget that. That's been something that we've worked on from pretty much day dot. The exact way that I make sales and the process that I take prospects through my pipeline, and just having that really clear in my mind so that I don't get overwhelmed or confused as I'm taking a prospect or lead through the process. That's been intrinsic. And there's been so many other things, but I can't think of all of them at the top of my head. Those are the key ones, and those kind of are the
they were, I think, to be honest, you know, the key thing when I take my clients through my framework is, you know, we really look at where the business is when I first start working with them. What are the biggest challenges that they have at the very beginning? And I can remember when I first started talking to Kat, obviously we looked at the terms and conditions, getting that sorted, because at that point, she was about to take on a big client and we needed to make sure that that contract was correct. But what we also then needed to be very crystal clear on, and this is something that Kat is definitely not one of Kat's favorite areas, and that's knowing your numbers. So we had sat and we'd looked, and I actually trained Kat on using Xero, and actually so she could look at things like her profit and loss and a balance sheet. Now she's not scared to actually do the bookkeeping herself, because she actually understands and she's spotting things. And that, I think, is the key thing, where when I'm working with clients and they're scared of looking at their numbers, she can now make informed decisions based on looking at the information and understanding that information. So, for example, she had her end of year accounts come in recently, and we sat and we went through them with a fine-tooth comb. And when I started pointing certain things out in terms of to match with what's in Xero, she was like, I get it now. And it's because she'd had that time working on Xero, and getting used to it now that, she's not so fearful of it, and from there, like Kat talked about, we talked about her ideal client. Now, the ideal client is something Kat actually teaches with her own clients. But the thing is, and I have the same challenge, is when you're working on your own business, you get stuck in your own head. So by, me and Kat working together, I could actually extract out of her the relevant information so that, she became clearer. And I think one of the challenges that she was having is, she wasn't working with the right types of clients because she just wasn't clear herself on who she wanted to work with. And by going through this framework, now it's clearer, which then leads into things like the marketing message. You can then get the marketing message right, and then you're going to resonate with those ideal clients. And, as Kat said, her framework, she had the essence of the framework. But one of the things that we had realized that so many marketing people do is it's always full of jargon, right? And one of the things I pride myself on when I'm working with clients is I'm often the translator between the experts and the clients, because with accountants, with marketeers, there is language, IT, there's language that is often used that the business owners, you guys, you don't actually understand what they're talking about. And sometimes you're afraid to ask the question because you don't want to appear like you're dumb, because you're not. It's just a case of, industries needing to understand that just because you know this doesn't mean your ideal client does. So, by us really looking at, and sometimes I'd even say to Kat when she'd be trying to put something, I was like, there's jargon in that. Whilst I understand it because this is what I teach, your ideal client won't. So we've really honed in on the jargon-free side of things. Yeah. And it was interesting because recently she did this speaking event. Do you want to share a little bit in terms of what the feedback you had as a result of the jargon-free side?
Absolutely. So as a result of working with Sarah, that made me aware. I've been really aware now of the kinds of jargon that just switches people off just that little tiny bit because they don't understand it fully. Well, they've heard the word, everybody's heard the word strategy, but really what it means isn't crystal clear. So I dropped that from a speaking engagement. I did a talk to an amazing group of networking ladies who I talked to them about the part that AI can play in marketing and connecting with their ideal clients. And they were blown away. They basically just walked out saying, Kat, you've completely blown my mind. I'm just, my brain is exploding with ideas, because I broke it down in a way that there's no jargon. These were my notes, and there's not one bit of jargon on this page at all. And that is all from, I'm so aware now, since working with Sarah, that of any jargon, I just completely strip it back and it works. People understand what I do now for the very first time, exactly what I do, not in a theoretical way like marketing. It's a big word. It could be all sorts of things. but the way that I'm explaining it now is so much clearer.
And that kind of then ties into things like when, Kat is talking to her ideal client in terms of going to that core, to the offers. So, one of the things I teach is about value ladders. And the value ladder, it's really important because you're kind of literally going up the ladder in terms of the value of the services. And, as Kat shared at the very beginning, she had so many different offers, but she didn't know what offer she should be putting at what time. And the thing is what is really important is you get one that you literally, you really nail. But the key part, so for example, the two main offers that Kat has, one is the Power Hour coaching, and the second thing is in terms of her Me Wow marketing accelerator. Now, the key thing with the Power Hour coaching is something that you guys hopefully are aware, I offer as well. And what it is it's a stepping stone to get into the accelerator. So people can see how we actually work. So they've got a particular challenge that they've got in marketing or in terms of their business, and they can spend an hour with us, and they then get a feel for, okay, they actually get a solution, an actionable plan that they can go away and implement in their business in relation to that specific challenge they've got. So they can see how we work, they can see how we think, they can see a path forward. And that's then when we can then say, look, if you're wanting to look at us or to work with us, on a more permanent basis, that's then when we can say, right, we have the accelerator available. And that's then what the ultimate core offer is. So now, Kat has that clear pathway. Now, over time, we will add into her value ladder. There will be other offers that will be coming through, but she needs to be confident in selling the accelerator first. And that obviously then ties into the sales process, and I've been doing sales since I was 17 when I worked in the wood burning stove industry. You can put me in front of anybody and I can sell. When I had the law firm, I had an 87% conversion rate. That remaining 13% was largely down to the fact I would tell people that it wasn't worthwhile them pursuing. So I know how to actually talk to people. And the thing is Kat is very confident. She's a people person, but it's knowing how to actually take them through the process. So they don't feel like, you don't feel like you're being sold to, but you feel like you're actually being educated, you're getting the value, and then you're actually feeling like, okay, you've got a solution that's being put in front of you that will actually solve the problem that you have. And that is effectively what the sales process is, and we've literally put it together. So she has this guidance sheet now that when she's having these conversations with prospects, you're feeling more confident in terms of, what you're saying, how you're saying it. And it all takes time. At the end of the day, it's all about practice. So we've gone through a lot of these things, but that doesn't mean that we end there. So we've got a lot of the basic foundational things in place, which is fantastic. But now we need to keep doing those building blocks. So one of the things that we are working on at the moment is Kat's website. So we looked at her website and we knew that the messaging was completely off. It just wasn't resonating. So we've sat and we've started to actually create all of the copy for her brand new website. But because we had done that foundational work, we'd done the ideal client, we'd done the marketing message, we'd done the framework, we'd done the core offers, it means that we've got that information to then actually then put into her website content. And that's one of the big projects that we're working on at the moment, as well as looking at, obviously Kat her expertise is marketing. She knows how to create the content planner, etc. But she was also getting stuck in her own head as to what content to put out there. Yeah. And that's where I've said to her, look, you've got this wealth of content. You need to actually categorize it based around your framework, because that's a logical way and people will think and follow in that way. Whereas what Kat was doing before was like scatter content, and there's no flow. And that's, again, something that what we're trying to do is get, so she's clearer in terms of the content that's going out. And of course, the other thing is financial forecasting. every business should have a budget, so they have got a plan for their financial year as to what do they want to achieve in the next 12 months, and looking at not just in terms of the sales that you want to generate, but changes you want to implement in your business and how that then impacts those numbers. So they're just some of the things that we're going to be working on going forward, and obviously we'll no doubt be able to update you again in the future as to those things that we worked on. But I don't know, Kat, whether there was anything else you kind of wanted to share or add to what we've talked about so far.
I think it would be remiss of me not to mention the mindset. I was, in a really dark place when we met. I was going to shut the doors and just walk away. And now I'm really optimistic about the future of the business. It's gone from strength to strength since we've been working together, which is maybe 9 months now, something like that. And I'm really optimistic about what we're going to be achieving just in the next quarter, let alone in the next years together, because I'm more confident. I have a lot more. I'm not overthinking as much as I was.
Yeah.
I've got just a lot more faith in myself than I did when we met, and my capabilities and the value that I had. And I'm getting clearer and clearer on what it is exactly that I'm bringing to my clients that I just didn't have that when we met. So
I think that's one of the things that is fundamental. Like one of my other clients, they said, I think there's a quote somewhere that says that where I specialize is the mindset shifting. And I think when I first started working with Kat, one of the challenges that she had was the self-worth. And the self-worth comes into it. We often have it in our personal lives, which then translate into our business lives. And with Kat, she didn't realize how much she could bring to the table. And we needed to very much shift that. So things like the pricing will have an impact. So, in terms of what she was charging when I first started working with her, I was like, no, you've got a value. And it's like, oh, but I'm based up north. I was like, but you can work with anybody anywhere in the country. You don't need to fix it based on where your location is. You've got to base it on the value in which you're providing. And now, she's confident when she's actually talking about the pricing that she charges. And, we've had a few conversations where she's come to me, Sarah, you're going to be upset with me. I've underquoted. And we would then work through it again, and we would continue. But now she's at that point where she's confident to say what she charges. And even in terms of, as you can hear in her voice, the excitement for actually what we're doing within the business, she's got that passion back in her. And that's one of the things I really love, is being able to reignite that passion back into my clients. That you get to a point where you think, is it worth it? Should I just close the doors and give up? And you often will have just this tiny ember that's still there, but you just need somebody that can really kind of reignite that ember into a burning flame. And that's one of the things that I really do pride myself in. So, we're excited to be continuing to work together going forward. So watch out and listen to some of the updates as they come out as to what we're doing. And like I said, just a quick reminder, if in terms of your terms and conditions, if you don't have your terms and conditions template, make sure that you just put in the comments the word terms, and I will send you the link. It's completely free. Like I said, the document's worth over £1,000. It is drafted by a former litigation lawyer, i.e. me. So you have got solid terms. So if you do want it, just put terms in the comments. Thank you for those that have been listening. Obviously, if you want to ask any questions of either of us, make sure that you also connect with Kat, particularly on LinkedIn. Make sure if you're following me. And thank you all for listening, and I will see you all very soon.